Greetings. In this part of our discussion, we said that the promise of the Lord to the Israeli Jews had two parts. The first part has, in 15 verses from Deuteronomy 28, we read how many blessings the Lord will provide over the Israelis if they obey and follow His commands carefully. And then now we are in Deuteronomy 28, verse 43. So from verse 16 until 43 so far, we are talking about the second part of the promise, which is full with curses if they disobey and offend the Lord. So simple. Let's see more curses He's going to put over this nation if they offend Him, and they did. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, but you will be the tail. Now let's take it one part at a time, because this was repeated in the first 15 verses of Deuteronomy 28. But the opposite. That one if you obey, this one if you disobey. So let's go one by one and see the situation. It says, the foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher. Well, first of all, this is an ignorant mistake, because they came to Palestine. They're going to come to Palestine, and Palestine is full with Palestinians. We discussed this in many videos. We are talking right now 55 the videos, close to 60 videos. We discussed this long time back on those videos, that the Palestinians were always in the land, under the title Rotten Zionists promoting lies that Palestine was a land with no people, for people with no land. You can go and check it. So, over here, the Israelis are the foreigners living among the Palestinians. But over here, it says, the foreigners who reside among you. What the hell is this? How did this happen? They will come and reside as foreigners among the Palestinians. Not the Palestinians will be foreigners among them. Anyway, the foreigners who reside among you will rise above you, higher and higher. But you will sink lower and lower. However, this is because if you offend, when you offend the Lord, this is what will happen. But in the first 15 verses, if you obey and follow all the commands carefully, you will be on top, and they will be lower. You will be higher and higher, and they will be lower and lower. You will always be on top if you obey and listen. But here, the opposite. If you disobey and offend the Lord, then the situation will take a spin. 180 degrees switch. The Israelis will become lower and lower, and the foreigners, or the Canaanites and the Palestinians, the true owners of the land, will become higher and higher. And that's exactly what happened. And they lived in continuous wars with the Palestinians. Go read the book of Judges and the book of Samuel. Very well. And it says, they will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. What does that mean? It means they have abundance of wealth while you are poor and in need. In the other promise, in the first part of the promise, in the first 15 verses, it says, if you obey, the countries around you will come to borrow from you. You will lend the people around you. But if you disobey, it says here, they will lend to you. You will come borrow from them, begging for help. But you will not lend to them because you cannot have it. You do not have it. And if you do not have it, you cannot provide it. You cannot support this. And if you have a lot, then you can, if you wish. But if you don't have, then they come and ask, and you will say, I don't have. But in this case, even worse. You don't have, and you beg. And they will lend you. They will be the head. They will be the head. They will be the rulers over you. During the years in Palestine, sometimes, the Israelis became rulers over the Palestinians, and other times the Palestinians are ruling over them. Like in the case of this stupid myth of Samson, they come to Samson, the Israelis, and they say, don't you know that they rule us? They are our masters. We are there under them. We are slaves to them. Why you're doing this to us? You want them to kill us? So sometimes they become slaves under the Palestinians, and other times they enslave the Palestinians in continuous wars. Win-lose situation. So they will be the head. In the first 15 verses, if they obey, the Israelis will be the head. But you will be the tail. And the promise of the obedience, under the shade of the obedience and following the commands, the nations will be the tail and the Israelis will be the head. But here it's the opposite. The nations will be the head and the Israelis will be the tail. And that's exactly what happened. Not the first part, this part. Let's go to the verse 45. It says, all these curses will come on you. All of those. We mentioned from verse 16, until now. Until now. We are talking close to 30 verses, stating curses after curses after curses, continuously. All these curses will come on you. All what we read. 30 verses listing different kind of curses. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed. Until you are destroyed. And that's what happened. 50% of them died, were slaughtered at the hands of the Assyrians first and then the Babylonians. 50% of the whole nation. Imagine how much destruction they suffered from. Not to mention how many thousands the Palestinians killed from among them during their stay. Because you did not obey the Lord, your God, and observe the commands and decrees He gave you. All those curses, all these curses will come on you because of this. Because you did not obey the Lord your God and observe the commands and decrees He gave you. Simple. This is the consequences to your actions. There will be a sign and a wonder to you, and your descendants forever. You will keep for generations to tell, this is what happened to us. This is what the Lord did at the hand of the Palestinians. For generations to come. You'll keep talking about this. Even after you are exiled from Palestine for almost 2,000 years, you'll keep repeating the same stories over and over again. Before you went to slavery at Babylon. There will be a sign and a wonder. Verse 47 says, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. So when the Lord provided for them in abundance, He gave them from every pleasure, or will give them from every pleasure, they will not serve the Lord God joyfully and gladly. But this means that they did serve the Lord, for a very short period of time under pressure of destruction. When they are about to be annihilated, they pray. So this is not joyful or gladly. They need the Lord, they go to the Lord, seeking help. They don't need Him, they forget about Him, they worship idols. So neither gladly or joyfully, but under certain pressures. When destruction is coming and they feel the threat, they beg, oh God, help us, save us. Always the same. History repeats itself. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies. So, during hunger time, they will suffer hunger, they will suffer thirst, even the water become abundant, scarce. They will become naked and poor in poverty, and they will serve the enemies therein. The Lord sends against you the enemies, the Lord sends against you, the Babylonians. They will live in miserable conditions in this slavery, worse than Egypt. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until He has destroyed you. Slaves, this iron around the neck, saying slave, not only the chains in the hands and the legs, but every sign to subdue them, to humiliate them, to make them feel miserable and ashamed. While in the first 15 verses, we were shocked how much the Lord is willing to give them if they obey and carefully abide by the commands. Moses said that today I give you on behalf of the Lord. Let's continue this next time.